eventually the family moved up north, and my brother and I stayed here with our grandmother while we went through art school.
How was that living with your grandmother while you go through art school?
No, it was great.
She was extreme.
No, she was great. No, she was terrific. But really at art school I goofed off to the point that at the end of the second year it was either redoing stuff again or no, I can't be bothered. I'll stay with music, so I opted for that on very little encouragement.
So yeah, and pretty much you've been doing it ever since, haven't you?
Yep. Yeah. Always have something to fall back on, kids. Yeah, well, you know, we did our best to model ourselves on what was happening in the UK at the time, as much information as we could get, which wasn't much, because you know there were no TV shows or anything like that. So, and there was, as I recall, there was a half-hour countdown type show once a week on radio. That was it.
And that wouldn't be playing the kind of music you guys are playing either, though, would it? You wouldn't hear.
Actually, funnily enough, yeah, we played pop songs along with the kind of British blues that we were trying to concentrate on. We were fairly eclectic, and that was actually one of the problems that we had when we went to Australia. We found that narrowing down the focus was a bit of a trial, so that ended up in musical differences. But that's where the split was, mainly between him and myself, and I was kind of opting for more of a blues focus, and he was kind of going in another direction. So, but you know, we've been in each other's pockets for 6 months, so the cracks were starting to show anyway. Well, it wasn't just musical; it was personal. It was personal, I tell you. Well, it was 3YA. It was probably local at that stage, and it wasn't there. It was somewhere on this side of town. All I can remember is lots of linoleum, and it was a kind of de facto studio. It wasn't a real studio in the sense that we weren't used to, because it was our first studio experience. We had no idea. And I think we just spent a few hours there and put down 2 tunes, and that was it. I don't think there was any question of mixing it or anything like that. Well, it could easily have been 2-track, if we were lucky. I don't think it was stereo. No, it wouldn't have been. It wasn't stereo. No. So it might have been a mix-as-you-go job. When we went up to HMV a bit later and we did some other tracks, that was a bit more sophisticated. But and you know, Jim Tomlin did some mixing on that.
So Jim mixed the second. So he was older than you guys.
Oh yeah, he was. He put far too much store by that, but and he kind of withdrew fairly early on. It might have been even after a year.
Like, how much older was he then?
Probably 4 or 5 years older than I am, which is ancient.
But yeah, when you guys are like 20, because how old are you when the band's playing? You're in your
I would have been
teens.
21, 22. So, yeah.
Trevor's younger than that, though.
Yeah, he was still in school at the stage.
Yes, that's quite a range of ages in a band.
Yes.
It's quite unusual.
And Jim was a fairly sophisticated, cool guy. He was into jazz, and he actually taught me quite a bit about that, just jazz appreciation anyway. And he's got infallible taste, so it's good. No, but he tagged along in the sense that Trevor and I kind of were the MDs of the band, finding where we were going, which songs we were going to record next, or play next rather. because we weren't an original band in the sense that we played covers, but we didn't even call them covers because we wouldn't have known what that meant. It wasn't even a term in those days. We just played versions of songs, and we made them our versions, so they were kind of chants. They went through the chants mincer. I think Pretty Things were probably our biggest influence, and it was intriguing seeing them. Excuse my spittle. It was intriguing seeing them. From my perspective, the most interesting thing was that the lead singer was so effeminate. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen a lead singer before, really, at that stage, and I was taken aback. And we were already fans of their music anyway, and I suppose particularly Viv Prince, because he was a kind of looking back on him, he was definitely the prototype for Keith Moon. I'm pretty sure that Keith Moon took a lot of notice of Viv Prince and modelled a lot of his stuff on Viv Prince, and even to the point that Viv Prince at the start of the tour decided that he was going to be the one-man publicity machine for the band, and so he just wreaked havoc from top to bottom of New Zealand and ensured that they weren't going to tour Australia ever. That was for sure.
Isn't there a book even written about that tour?
Yes. The John Baker actually had contributed quite a bit to that, and they got to talk to Viv Prince today, and he's got some odd memories, but I'm surprised he's got any memory at all because he's spent a lot of it unconscious.
It's funny, history hasn't served the Pretty Things as well as, say, the other bands of that era. They're not that.
They never cracked it in the States, and I'm not even sure that they tried. And they moved on to the next phase. They were kind of. They were moving on. I think they're still active actually.
They did the concept album and before Pete Townsend. So.
Other stuff. They were kind of almost Spinal Tap, but we've all been there.
I was going to say, I've seen the videos. I think you guys are almost Spinal Tap. You had just Spinal Tap moments, though, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely, and probably closer to the heavy metal tour, the Comic Book Presents crowd. That was probably closer in reality to most of the bands I've been involved with, anyway.
Yeah, that's probably the English version of it, isn't it? As opposed to the American. Yeah. Because there's a story of you nailing your guitar to the floor. What happened?
I think I even knew at the time that's the way it was going to end up. And I met somebody the other day who was actually at that gig. But I think it was the high school gig we did in Wellington or Upper Hutt or Lower Hutt or somewhere. And I did nail a guitar strap to the stage. I wouldn't do that to a guitar. I mean, the guitar wouldn't have been as valuable then as it would be now, but it still was too valuable to muck around with. So it might have looked like from off stage that I was nailing it to the stage. So yeah, I probably was slightly aware of that. Yeah, I don't think anybody's actually been accused of nailing it. What's the point? I don't get it.
Crucifying a guitar or something. Where'd you get the hammer and nails?
Well, I guess they must have been. There might have been a bit of school carpenter or something. I don't know. They were there. Oh, incorporate them in the stage act. Beauty.
Do you think Christchurch is a bit like Liverpool in that you got your influences through American sailors and workers and people coming through? Do you think there's a similarity there?
Well, we didn't.
Where did you get them from then?
Directly from magazines, or we posted postal notes and money over to English record companies and got records sent over to us direct. Other bands in town were doing that, so I guess, looking back, they were the dark side.
So it's funny, you guys were quite a bubble in, weren't you? Your own...
Well, I would actually say we were below that because we were underground, like literally underground at the stage door, and we were just absolutely unconscious of anything else going on anywhere in the country, in town. We did make friends with the Breakaways, who used to visit town quite a bit. But
anyone else from those days that you can think of? Other bands that came through? New Zealand bands?
Not that I can remember. Roadrunners perhaps up in Wellington. And from a listening point of view, I reckon 70 minutes of music's fucking rubbish. Who wants to listen to 70 minutes worth of music? Nobody. I don't. Not from one outfit anyway.
You're also the man who's probably made the most famous double album in Australia.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, it was one of the first, and certainly of the original double album. So, yeah.
Do you think the Chants will record again?
Oh, there's every possibility. If this keeps, it keeps its promise of being interesting to play with, and I can't see why we wouldn't. It might be by remote control, but if we get round to doing this again, then it wouldn't be such a bad idea because there's only so many times you can recycle the same material. So why not?
Do you find it hard remembering the songs?
Yeah. Oh, especially since we've got some new ones on board. Lyrics are a constant problem for me. So
and also because you're not playing them night after night. You're doing 2 nights, then you're having a break for 2 years.
That's right. But I'm boxing clever on this one. Though. I've actually incorporated one of the songs already in the Spectrum set because we have a blues kind of set that we do, and I'll probably put a couple more of the others in there as well, so that I'm kind of more familiar with them. But, I've been looking back at my history, and I think I've got kind of vaguely autistic tendencies. So familiarity is a really vital before I feel like taking an adventure. So as much as I don't like getting stuff note perfect, and leaving room for, and that's why blues is good, leaving room for exploring stuff as you feel. I like to feel that the structure is there that I can have confidence in. So yeah.
It's a bit like jazz, isn't it? You have to know how to play well before you can really play jazz.
Yeah, well, that's probably not where I'm heading. I think Tim's heading that direction. He's got some lovely kind of jazzy, bluesy things in there, and it's great fun playing with him because, as I say, he's coming up with different inversions and different chords all the time. Yeah, cool. The first time we did this a couple of years ago, it was just such a supercharged occasion that remembering the experience is probably, I can't actually remember a lot. It was just headless monster. I think that's about it, isn't it, really?